Hello and welcome back to the Consistency Club podcast. This is probably going to be our first episode of 2024. So if you're tuning in again, you watched some of our episodes from 2023. I appreciate you. Happy New Year. If you're new here, welcome. The backdrop has changed. We're in the new office, and today is somewhat of an emergency episode. To give you a quick overview of what this podcast is about, this is my way to connect with as many of you as possible and provide as much free value in relation to health, fitness, wellness, training, nutrition, longevity. And today I watched an episode of an incredible podcast, many of you will know, called The Diary of a CEO. I can't speak about Stephen Bartlett highly enough, not that I know him personally. I love his podcast. I think the podcast is absolutely incredible. However, they have recently had on Dr. Jason Fung. Now, Jason Fung is known as the founder of fasting. Okay, so fasting is a protocol. Now, this comes from someone who I've just done a 3-day water fast or 72-hour water fast. I've done multiple 36-hour fasts, 24-hour fasts. I've been building intermittent fasting into my lifestyle now for probably over a decade. So I back fasting. I understand the benefits of fasting, and I personally use fasting as a strategy and implement it into my client's lifestyle as well. With that being said, the narrative that is painted on this podcast is scary to me. And he's not the only one that's come on and said some sweeping statements, which I'll get into shortly. And I think for people on a fat loss journey, whether they've got obesity, which he's written a book about, or whether they simply need to lose weight for their longevity, maybe you're not at that obesity level yet, you need to understand everyone's trying to push a narrative. In this world of social media, of content consumerism, you have to be polarizing. Okay, it's like if you've got a book to sell, a product to sell, like, traditionally you don't want to be the middleman. You want people to hate. If people hate you, you're doing something right, and some other people will love you. You have to polarize people, essentially, is what I'm saying. And so they will throw out these sentences to do that. And I think people take them as gospel. And my fear is in this particular subject of something as sensitive as fat loss and obesity, it prevents people from really taking true self-accountability. Now, to touch on the overarching statement, his statement is that calorie counting does not work, and burning more than you consume or consuming less than you burn does not work as a strategy for fat loss. Now, I can tell you as someone who's done competition preps, multiple diets, and now coached hundreds of people, that is absolute BS. It's absolute BS. Now, his theory and his methodology around fasting and the structures and why it works, I back. But you can't be saying sweeping statements like that, because that level of accountability where someone looks internally and goes, I'm the problem, is blown away when they read sentences like that. They go, okay, maybe it wasn't me. Maybe the methods that I've been trying just don't work. It's not true. You just haven't been applying yourself to them in the appropriate way. And like I said, he's not the first one to go on such a wide-reaching social media network that is the Diary of a CEO and say statements like calorie counting does not work. Let me tell you this now. If you need to lose weight, okay, if you look at yourself and you go, fucking hell, I need to do something about this, and you start counting calories and you do it accurately, and you're conscious of, and this is an important point as well, you're conscious of the calories you're consuming. You can count calories, of course, and the methodology or the science-backed data says if you eat, 1,500 or 2,000 calories of chips and burgers, but you burn 2,000 calories, you're still going to lose weight. And that is, I remember Katie Hopkins did that crazy thing where she ate fast food for like a year, put on like almost doubled in size just to lose it again. And her point was to prove that fat people are lazy. That's a subject we're not going to go into. But at the end of the day, if you burn more than you consume, you will lose fat. I can't emphasize enough on top of that. You must be really conscious of the type of calories you're consuming. And what do I mean by that? Notifications ruining the podcast. What I mean by that is the micro and the macronutrient level of those foods. Okay, and I see it time and time again with my clients. I could put someone on a 2,500 calorie diet, and all you have to do is change. So it's exactly the same calorie base. You change the percentage of each macronutrient, protein, carbs, and fats around. And you put someone on a higher protein, lower carb, medium fat diet, and you take subject B and put them on a lower protein, higher carb, medium to higher fat diet. They've got exactly the same training regime. They're a clone of each other genetically. They will look dramatically different. And subject A, that's consuming higher protein, so lower carb, moderate fat, will look like a completely different person. So much healthier, will be so much healthier in most cases compared to subject B. Would have equally lost more body fat. Same calories. Okay, same calories, burnt the same amount. So they've consumed the same calories, they've burnt the same amount of calories. The only difference is the macro split of the foods itself, and subject A will have burnt more body fat, lost more weight, will look better, likely have more energy as well. Okay, so just to go back to the original point that he was raising, Jason Fung, around, calorie counting does not work. This is why, health and fitness is very, very subjective, and nutrition is subjective. We're all so different. Our intolerances, our reactivity, our body's ability to deal with certain macronutrients, to partition them, our metabolisms, it's so different. So it's very, very hard to generalize and that sweeping statement to cover every single person. And that's why I always stress it's about reverse engineering you, like your genetics and who you are and how your body functions, to truly understand what's the best protocol to move forward. But in essence, I completely disagree with what he's saying. I think it's a very, very, very dangerous statement. Now, with that being said, as I just explained, calorie counting as a whole is not foolproof. Will you lose weight if you ate 2,500 calories of absolute rubbish, or subject B, for example, not even necessarily rubbish, but subject B compared to A, subject B, and you burn 3,000, you would lose weight. But losing weight is not the be all end all. You must consider your energy levels, your daily performance, your cognitive function, your internal health markers, your resting heart rate variability, diastolic, systolic blood pressure, AC1 levels or blood glucose levels. All these things should be considered, and they will tell you, data-driven decisions. What gets measured gets improved. And the reason I called this an emergency episode is because I want people. It's got 400,000 views in 3 days, I believe, that video, and I'm sure a large portion of them will sit there, listen, take the information so literally they'll go, okay, calorie counting never worked for me. I wasn't the problem. The strategy was the problem. And now I'm going to do what Jason says and just fast. And with fasting, when done effectively, it's a great tool. When done ineffectively, and you're not considering how you're starting, breaking, sustaining the fast, and your time intervals between, it's very, very easy to slip into a situation where you're underfueling. And if you underfuel and you burn out your metabolism completely, it leaves you with nowhere to go. And this is the term, and many of you would have heard this, and particularly men will relate, skinny fat. So we'll all know someone like this, or maybe you feel like this yourself. In a t-shirt, right, you would never ever say either yourself or one of your friends is fat, overweight, if you're going to label them with a term. Take their t-shirt off and you can see they're out of shape. That's skinny fat. And why does that happen? It happens because, one, people consume, they don't over consume food, but they consume completely poor macro and micronutrient based foods, don't do enough intense exercise, but equally they're often underfueling themselves. And by underfueling, literally, I mean like they're not stoking their metabolism. They're usually low on protein, relatively high in carbohydrates, medium to high on fats, and they're underfueling. And so the metabolism slowly over time just dials down because it knows, okay, I'm not going to get a huge amount of food today, so I need to adjust. So when I go and burn, I'm not going to completely go burn or, start doing exercise. I'm not going to completely burn out or run out of fuel. And that's what creates that kind of skinny fat look. And I've seen it time and time again with people that have tried fasting. They go into it with this, like whether it's intermittent or 16-8, and they do a load of research, they listen to a podcast. And then when you reverse engineer it, they are massively, massively underfueling themselves. And as I said, it has a detrimental effect. And once you get there, okay, once you're in that position, like, how do you get out of it? Okay, if you can't decrease calories anymore because they're already low. If you decrease calories, like your metabolism has adjusted and slowed down to ensure energy levels aren't dramatically affected and you're not burning all of your body stores from this low diet. Okay, so you drop it again, you're going to be fucked. Like, you're going to have no energy, no libido, no testosterone, no vigor, no motivation, no get up and go. Okay, because these are like chemical and hormonal changes that happen within the body from doing that. And then if you were to add food, because your metabolism has been wound down, you add food, it doesn't know how to deal with it. So it stores it quickly. And that, unless you then throw yourself into a really intense exercise regime, it will start storing. So you're in a position, you're stuck between two walls that are closing in. You can't drop because you will, energy-wise, you'll just fall off a cliff. Hormonal balance in the body will be disrupted. But you increase food and you just pile on the fat. And so many people will resonate with that. Whether it's you or someone within touch and distance of you will resonate with that. And that is why, like, again, I've got to stress, fasting is such an effective strategy for longevity, immune health. Fucking notifications ruining the pod. Come on. An amazing strategy. But do not believe the narrative that calorie counting does not work. Calorie counting does not work if you don't do it effectively, which is pretty much the same as anything out there, right? It's like if you're going to go, it's like an exercise regime. Okay, you can have the plan, and you can go to the gym, and you can follow the actual exercises, but how well are you doing it? Are you executing the number of sets with the appropriate intensity? They're two different things. Going there and picking a dumbbell and sitting on the bench and doing some half reps isn't the same as going there, applying yourself 100%, full reps, heavy weight, full intensity. But on the surface level, you still went to the gym. You still technically did the exercise. And that's the sort of metaphor that I would use for calorie counting. It's an effective tool. I got myself from the heaviest I've ever been for my last competition prep, 109 point something kilos I was, which to think about now is ridiculous. I'm currently sitting about 93. And wow, that's crazy. 93, so I'd have been like 16 kilos heavier. And I felt it. My knees hurt. Like, it was not fun. But I got down from that to, I think I was 80 kilos, 82 kilos, 83 kilos maybe for stage. And for pretty much all of that until the last 6 weeks, felt fantastic. The only thing I did for that, track my training, slowly increase expenditure, calorie counting, and slowly decreasing the amount of calories I was eating. So again, I want to stress from his statement, don't hear things like calorie counting doesn't work. for fat loss. It works, but it's how you apply yourself to that system that is just as important. It's like I said, we're in a consumer-based world at the moment where we can read books. Books have had a resurgence. Listen to a million podcasts. We get all of this information, and our brain's constantly trying to process information because of social media. And we onboard so many opinions that it can feel like you're stuck in the mud, don't know where to start. And people don't end up actioning any of them because of that. So be really, really conscious of that. And I want to stress, if you are in a position where you need to or want to lose weight, calorie counting is an effective strategy. Okay. How the hell are you meant to, over time, understand what you've been eating, what needs to change, and track that change to ensure then on the data on the back end, you can compare it and it's having the desired result without messing your system up, without doing so, without calorie counting? Now, calorie counting isn't something everyone, like, you should have to do your whole life. But it's like when people come to me, like clients come to me, and they say, oh, look, I don't really want to do the calorie counting stuff. Okay. Can you tell me how much you've been eating macro and micronutrient wise at the moment? Not really. Give me a very, very brief rundown. Okay. So how do we know where to start? How do we know what needs to be optimized? Everything, like when it comes to health and fitness, is data-driven decisions. You have to have the data. And for nutrition specifically, calorie counting allows you to get to the end of the day and understand what you've eaten. If you've under-eaten on your goal, you've got some food to play with. And remember let's go to another conversation, have a goal. If you're over, then you understand, okay, this has given me a greater perspective on really where my diet-based level sits. And I need to adjust it if I want to achieve my result. So again, it works. Download MyFitnessPal. Don't change anything. And I'm going to give you a tip now. If you're looking to lose weight, download MyFitnessPal. Okay. Do not change your diet for 7 days. Just download MyFitnessPal and track everything that you eat. And this can be difficult because I think subconsciously, when going through that process, you slightly alter what you're eating, but don't do it. Eat 100% what you would eat, what you feel like eating previously, like the routines that you're in for that 7 days. And then review that data at the end. And I think you'll probably be fairly shocked depending on what position you're in. And from that, you can decide what needs to be changed. Let's say that data tells us you're eating 2,200 calories, but almost no protein, 250 grams of carbs, 80 grams of fat. Okay, you know, I need to get my protein up. But if I just throw protein in there, I'm going to be, there's 4 calories per gram. So I'm going to be over the 2,200. So I'm probably going to start putting on weight. So I'm going to have to substitute from the carbohydrates and the fats a little bit to get that protein up. It's very, very, very simple. Now, if you can add fasting, intermittent fasting, and even into your schedule some elongated fasts, but specifically intermittent fasting in with a calorie counting structure and an exercise regime that is optimized for you, because we're all different, the results within 12 weeks will be phenomenal. And that's a promise. All you have to do is apply yourself. But it's like anything, it's having the mental bandwidth to sit down, break down, analyze the data, and set a plan out. And a lot of us, when it comes to health and nutrition and tracking and fasting, we don't actually have like a definitive goal we're working towards. You need the goal first, get the data, analyze the data, set the plan, and from the plan comes the lifestyle. You can start to project how you need to live your life for longevity moving forward. So please go action that. And if you have any questions, drop a comment below here. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, Jamie Harrison, or the Consistency Coach, Instagram, _consistency_coach, with any questions. I am more than happy to help every single one of you and offer my advice on how to do this. It's an important subject. It's a subject that I'm extremely passionate about. And if you're wanting change and you're committed enough, let's talk. Let's go through your situation and I'll offer my advice on how we can improve it. That's it. That is it for the first episode of 2024. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining in. I feel like it's very, very serious. I feel like it's extremely serious, actually. But it's a topic I'm passionate about because I see it time and time again, guys. Like, calorie counting does not work. And these people, they're doctors. They're held to high regard. But just remember when you hear anything, okay? Try look if that person's selling something. A book. There's a book release coming out. Or they got a product. And just understand that being polarizing, it's good for sales. Okay? It's good for building a bit of a cult community. And they build their life off that. So despite the credentials, they're willing to throw these things around. And I want to go on record to say, like, Jason Fung, from what I've seen and what I've read, and I've listened to a lot of his stuff on fasting, I think he's a brilliant guy. But I cannot get on board with the sweeping statements that were made in that podcast. And I want you to be extremely wary of them and go and action what I said today. And in 3 weeks' time, you'll be a different person. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.